Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All in All with Alex. I'm your host, of course, Alex, and today we have a very special guest, Miss Star Hansen.
Hello, it's so good to be here with you today.
Yes, same here. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. So, can you give the people a brief background about yourself, and then we'll dive into the questions?
Absolutely. My name is Star Hansen. I'm a certified professional organizer and clutter whisperer. I help you understand why and the F your clutter won't go away no matter what you try to do. And I work in the worlds of clutter. I work in productivity. I help people with mindset and the mental health aspect of clutter and chaos. And so I really help people understand the deeper root, because when we understand what's causing the chaos in our lives, then we can address it from a root cause instead of just this topical thing that most of us try to do with boxes and labels and planners and post-its. So this way we can really address the root cause of the clutter and get rid of it for good.
That's right. I like it. I like it. So let's jump into it.
Excellent.
So, you're known as the Clutter Whisperer.
Yep.
What does that term mean to you, and how does it guide your work?
I came up with Clutter Whisperer because it's really difficult in the world of organization and productivity to say to people, I'm not just here to work on a surface level. But the minute I say Clutter Whisperer, people understand that there's something bigger going on. And for me, I think people are amazing. I think that humans have incredible brains. And unfortunately, in our society, there's a lot of stigma around clutter. There's a lot of stigma around certain diagnoses, mental health diagnoses like ADHD or OCD or hoarding disorder. And so what I'm trying to do is help people really understand how their brain works and how to use their brain as a superpower. And I really have that as my North Star, helping really to help people find their way back home within themselves again. I look at dealing with our clutters like having a conversation with ourselves. And I want to help you come home to yourself in a way that works for you, not the way that Marie Kondo tells you to, or the way that Oprah has told you to, but the way that really works for you and your unique brain and lifestyle.
Cool. So, your book, Why the F Am I Still Not Organized, addresses the deeper emotional reasonings behind clutter. What's the most common emotional block that people face when it comes to organizing?
Well, such a good question. It's hard to say what the biggest one is because there's so many and everybody's so unique, but I'll give you a few of the big hitters. So, I always say that clutter is helping us in some way. And so there's a few ways that clutter really works to help us. So, one is it's a reminder. Think about when you have post-its on your computer or when you leave weights on your living room floor to help you remember to work out when you're watching TV at night. Those are little reminders. It can also be when you leave something on your counter for your partner as a kind of dig or reminder to say, hey, remember I asked you to do this and you still didn't do this. It can also be a way that we remind ourselves of who we have been in our lives or who we want to be. It's a way of teeing ourselves up for something. We can also use clutter in a sense for security. So you saw this a lot during the pandemic where people suddenly couldn't access toilet paper and they started hoarding toilet paper. And if you see people who, for example, went through the Great Depression, who actually starved, who didn't have enough, having a lot of stuff makes them feel safe. I've had this with clients who grew up with almost no money and they had like one pair of blue jeans their whole life and felt embarrassed and just have a lot of trauma about that scarcity and lack. And so as an adult, they overcompensate and acquire too much because they're looking for that sense of security. So helping people really establish that in their lives. We can use clutter as a way to connect with other people, with our loved ones, say who've passed away. Connect, we might hold on to things from someone that we love around our house so that we feel like we're staying in contact with them when they're gone. We also might use it to connect with versions of ourselves that don't exist anymore. So you see, I think about this with like the person who always wants to relive the glory days of high school or college and maybe a career. And so really looking, okay, how are we doing that? And then another way that we use clutter is for safety. So I had a client who had a break-in and they are scared to have their home organized because if their home is organized, someone can come in and find their stuff more easily. And so by having clutter, it helps them to protect themselves. So clutter can be this really powerful presence of protection. You also see this if you are talking about people who are in, say, abusive relationships. I would love for everyone in an abusive relationship to leave, but that's not always the case. And sometimes we have to create a buffer within a home for protection. And so we see clutter being used in these ways. And why I want to unpack the cause of our clutter, this deeper, need for clutter, is not because I think you should then know and it should magically go away. It's so that we can learn to get that need met without the clutter. If you're using clutter for protection, is there a way that we can protect you without the clutter? Is there a version of reminding yourself that doesn't require you to leave things out that you're tripping on? And that's my goal, is to help you, again, say, yes, you're right. Yes, it's okay to have a need that clutter's serving you. And let's find the best version of that, not the one that worked when you were 4 that you never stopped using. And that's what we want to do together, is address the best way to get your needs met.
Okay. So a lot of people deal with "I'll deal with it later" mindset.
I've never seen that, Alex. Never seen anyone do that.
What strategies do you suggest for overcoming procrastination around organization?
When everything is important, nothing is important. And this is one of the challenges of living in our modern world. We have never had so much access to information and activities and actions and even points of contact. If you look at your email or social media, those are task lists that other people get to add to without your consent. And so we're walking around with all this information flooding us, all these activities we think we're supposed to do. Oh, I can't miss that. I've got to do this. How do you know what to give your attention to? How do you know what to give your time to? And so I think what we need to do first and foremost is we have to take our power back around our time, energy, activities in general. So, for example, a lot of times when I'm working with people, they feel like they're 5 minutes late and they're in a hurry to get stuff done. And they feel this frantic energy about, there's so much and I've got to do it all. You cannot do and plan at the same time. What I want for you is, if you want to get more done, I want you to schedule 1 hour a week to plan out what you want to focus on in your life for the week ahead. You sit down and you say, okay, great. Review your emails, review your, paperwork, anything that your calendar, anything that is basically showing you what you need to do or work on in the week. And then I want you to make a plan for the week ahead based on your priorities, because I promise you, those voicemails, those emails, those, DMs are going to call you in other directions. And you need to know where you are most grounded. And so what I want for you to do is at least give yourself, and if you can't do an hour, do 10 minutes, do 20 minutes, but take a second to say, I am important and I am the master of my ship and I am going to captain this in the way that I want to. And how do I want to move through my life this week? And that's really an empowered way of working versus letting the world at large tell you what to pay attention to, because it's just stressful and we are not built to take on the amount of information that's being thrown at us every single day.
I would definitely agree. I would definitely agree. So you've been on 30 TV shows.
Yes, sir, I
And
have.
you even had the chance to share your tips with Oprah.
Yes.
What has been the most rewarding part of your media experience?
I think it's, the fact that in the world that we live in, those media appearances never go away. And so it's getting a message from someone 6 months, a year later, 2 years later, saying, wow, that really helped me, or thank you for sharing that. Or, and it's funny, I think I enjoy podcasting the most of anything that I've done for appearances. Like, TV is great, but TV is make believe. It's all make believe. And so and we watch it like it's real, but if it's on TV, it's been produced and scripted, and it's like there's some structure to it. But my desire is to normalize people's experience with clutter and chaos. It's to empower people to know that they have the answers within them. And so it's being able to live in a time where we're able to demonstrate that you're not the only one who struggles with this, that you are not alone with this, is such an affirming experience, because it breaks my heart that so many people feel like they're all alone and they have the worst clutter in the world and that there's something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with you. You just don't necessarily, we don't post on Instagram or TikTok our worst day. We post our best day. And so we don't have proper perspective of other people who are dealing with what we're dealing with. And through the media appearances and podcasts, I can really translate that to people so that they know that they're not alone and there's nothing wrong with them and that there is hope for what they're dealing with.
So in your TEDx talk, you dive into the psychology of clutter. Can you share a few key insights that can help people shift their mindset around organizing?
Absolutely. First of all, clutter is not the enemy, clutter's a friend. The title of my talk is Listen to the Monster in Your Closet. And it's, growing up, I love to tell my cousins scary stories. I was like obsessed with scaring them because I was scared. And so I wanted to share my fear with the rest of my family. That's normal as a kid, I guess. But I love telling stories, and I love the stories that clutter tells us. And I, just like I was sharing earlier, the ways that it is actually helping us. It looks like it's hurting us. And if you ask most people, how is your clutter helping you? They're going to say it's not. It's causing me stress. It's, amping up my anxiety. It's overwhelming. It's wasting my time. And yes, I agree with all of that. And it's also a friend who's there to help you. And so really starting to look at the way that clutter is having this bigger conversation with ourselves. One of the stories that I talk about in the talk is there was this couple whose clutter, in their kitchen had hit max capacity, and we worked on it and organized it. And at the very base, there's always something, man, I tell you, Alex, there's always like a little something that exists in the clutter that's like the cause, or like where you can feel that it starts. And there was a teacup in there, and neither of them would touch it. They were like looking at it and side-eyeing each other, and they were just like not having this. And finally I said, oh, hey, how long has this teacup been there for? And it had been there for over a year. And they like both blamed each other. It was like a broken teacup. They blamed each other. They didn't have that communication. They didn't want to have that communication. They felt self-righteous about it and angry, and just weren't able to have that conversation. And through finding that teacup and really starting to explore the anger that they had and what was really going on, they both transformed their lives completely in totally different ways. Like, she went off and started a brand new career. Their relationship healed a lot. It was really powerful. And if they hadn't found that teacup, if they hadn't had that clutter hit max capacity, bring me in and then really start to address what was going on, they might not have had that transformation, or it might have taken a lot longer. But our clutter has beautiful gifts that it's offering to help us to evolve and grow in our lives.
So people often get discouraged when they can't maintain an organized space.
Yeah.
What are some tips for staying motivated and consistent with organizing?
Small is better. Do not feel like you're supposed to spend 18 hours a week organizing. If you can do 20 minutes a day, great. Know that whatever systems you set up is just a first draft. We almost never get things right on the first try. What we want to do is build on what works. I was talking to a client about this today. She had started a system for her purse, and the purse system didn't quite work. And so she's like, oh, the system that I thought would work is now a Dropbox of clutter of other things. And it's like, great. What worked about it? Was the location right? Was the size right? So it's like, what we want to do is, instead of just throwing out the baby with the bathwater and saying, it didn't work, I'm a failure, I should have figured it out, we need to say, well, what's working about it and what's not working, and how can we tweak that and modify it? Because honestly, Alex, what I found is that most people, their system is almost always there. The foundation of their system, it's not that I come in with some, like a playbook of ideas for a system and I'm like, you get system 247. It's like I want to know what works for you and your lifestyle and what's not working. And what we need to do more than anything when it comes to maintaining our organization or creating organization is to get curious about how our brain works, get curious about the people in our lives and how they impact what it is that we're building, getting curious about why things didn't work versus just adding to the list of reasons why we beat ourselves up. Curiosity really is the cure when it comes to moving forward in the decluttering process. No, it's a party.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, y'all having a party? Y'all didn't invite me. Hold on,
Totally. I want to come. Come on.
where's the beverages at?
Yep.
So you've helped people from all walks of life, from busy professionals to parents with young children. How do you tailor your organizational methods to different lifestyles?
It's a good question. I tailor my organizational process to different lifestyles because my process is built around honoring your unique strategy for things. Not to kind of, keep on the same thing, but I get really curious. I'm deeply interested in people and the way that their brain works and the way that their life works. When I work with someone, I'm looking to meet you where you are. Meet you where you are to accept what's going on. I think most people, when they hire an organizer, they feel judged. They feel like, oh, this person's going to come in and rip me apart and tell me what I've done wrong. And I a little bit fall in love with my clients when I walk in. I walk in and I'm like, oh my gosh, you won that award. That color on your walls is beautiful. Whoa, like tell me more about this magazine. Like I'm deeply interested in people. And so it helps me to create systems that work for you because I care about you. I don't come in with some, you know, paper cut, like, I don't know, this cookie cutter strategy and just say, here, you're 47. I want you to really be able to feel at peace and feel seen. And the truth is, most people with their clutter. So if you look at clutter, clutter is like us. How would I put this? We're taking up space with our clutter, right? There's a version of clutter where we're hiding behind our clutter, but also where we're being seen. Sometimes we use our clutter to be seen, and I want to help people take up space. Most people don't think that they should take up space. We're used to constricting and feeling like, okay, am I like, I don't want to be too big or too much. Most of us heard somewhere that we were too much. And so we're like really conscious of like, I want to be little. And I want you to take up space because when you're taking up space, when you are really embodying your truth, you will need the clutter a lot less to speak for you. And so a big part of is helping people create a feeling of safety for themselves and their body and their home so that they can take up space with themselves versus their stuff.
You are known for your fitted sheet folding method. What is the secret to
Infamous,
mastering?
Alex. I'm infamous for my, no, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
let
I'm
me go
teasing.
back.
I'm just joking.
You're known for your infamous fitted folding sheet method. What's the secret to mastering it, and why do you think it's so satisfying to get right?
Oh my gosh, because it's impossible, because it's annoying. It's one of those tasks that nobody wants to do. You know, it's funny because I do not like folding. I will always find the laziest version of folding because I just don't value taking the time to make it the most beautiful, hotel version. I'm like, I want to go do my life. Thank you very much. I'd rather go for a hike or go explore something. I don't know. So I am all about making it simple, quick and dirty. That's what I do when it comes to my folding. One of the things that I loved is I was watching that show Blackish. Do you remember that show that was out a few years ago?
Yes.
And the dad on there, like, he's like teaching his son, he was teaching Junior how to fold. And he's like, so you put your fingers in these two holes. And I was like, that's exactly right. Yes, it is, sir. Like, I was so excited because I was like, keep going. Don't stop. They cut to commercial and I was like, don't stop. Teach us the way. But it's so satisfying because it's a hot mess. And I was telling a friend this. So you can find that video, the video that I did with Oprah.com online still. It's on my blog, it's on Oprah.com, but it'll kind of walk you through the process. But a friend of mine said, no matter how many times I try to fold it, Star, it just never looks as good as yours. And I said, let me tell you the secret. I said, because you're on TV and there is no room for error, it must be beautiful and it must be quick. And I got a whole team of people behind the camera. I don't want to stop them from seeing their kids that night. Like, let's go. I always use a twin like sheet when I'm showing this and demonstrating it on camera because it's quick and it looks pretty. And also it's brand new. It's never like an old one from your grandma that's been washed 100 times and wrinkly. It's like brand new and crisp. So like, to be clear, if it doesn't look perfect, it's because again, TV's not real. And we have to make it look beautiful and it needs to look right. And so we micromanage that behind the scenes. But it's okay if it doesn't look perfect. All that matters is that you've folded it and it's in your closet. That's it. Can you find it when you need it? Great
Exactly.
job. You can roll it into a ball for all I care. It's totally fine.
So let's see. Okay, so how about this? You've helped people with everything from home offices to kitchens. What space in the home do people tend to neglect when it comes to organization?
That's a good question. So the room that they tend to neglect the most are the workhorse spaces. So we all think about like the things that people can see or things that affect us, right? So like we might do our office or our bedroom, but we don't always do like the laundry room or the utility room or the garage, the spaces. And those are workhorse spaces that make sure that our house functions. And so sometimes
Mhm.
it's just taking a minute to just think about what systems would make those spaces work better. Because so if you have a laundry room, for example, or if you don't have a laundry room, if you have to go to a laundromat, what's your laundry system? That's something that we just kind of throw together at the last minute and be like, well, I'm out of underwear. I must need to do laundry, versus saying, okay, great. I do laundry on Saturdays and I listen to 3 podcasts when I'm doing it so that I feel like I'm really like moving my self-development forward. And then it feels like you've got a reward coming in there and you have these systems and strategies. I created what's called the Chaos to Calm community in 2019 because I was like, people need help remembering to organize these little spaces that don't demand our attention. The laundry room, the pantry, these little things, because people don't see them, but these spaces affect you every single day. Your fridge, it seems so silly, but again, we can't do and plan at the same time. So what I want you to do is to go to these spaces where it feels like it's costing you time and costing you energy, and really think through, what am I missing here? What do I need? And sometimes it's actually not decluttering, it's purchasing something. It's like, oh, wow, I really do need to go buy that rolling laundry cart, or I need to go buy this bin, this very deep bin for my pantry, so I can pull out and have all of these snacks available to me. Or I need a snack drawer in my office because I keep going into the kitchen and it's distracting me and I lose an hour getting lost in family time. Or I need a trash here because I keep finding trash on the floor. What we want to do is start to think about those workhorse spaces for you. And the other thing, and this is just on a productivity side, the number one thing people don't do in their life, which is affecting their productivity in a very negative way, is that planning session I told you about, that taking that time every single week, even if it's 20 minutes, to just say, what am I giving my attention to? No one makes time for that. They're like, I don't have time. It's not, I'm so busy, Star. And it's like, if you have no time, you have no time. Then you need it extra. You need it twice as bad if you have no time to plan. It's the most important thing that you can do, is give yourself that time of deciding what gets your attention.
So, how do you stay organized in your own life, especially with such a busy schedule and your media appearances?
Friend, it is not easy. That is, well, so I made this amazing choice, this very fun choice in spring, to just go digital, full digital nomad, put everything in storage, left my place, and have just been traveling for the last 6-7 months. And it is not for the weak of heart. It is not for the faint of heart. It is challenging. I have had words with myself many times over. It's been a great experience, but it's a lot. And unfortunately, and this is the thing that I think people don't want to hear, is it takes time. If I choose to live out of a suitcase, I have to reorganize that suitcase like 100 times because, like, for example, I went to many different climates. I'm seeing through multiple different seasons. I started out somewhere that was snowing and now I'm by the beach. And I spent the summer in extreme heat and humidity. And then I spent the fall in a mix of stuff. So it's been really tricky to figure that out. But I think what we need to remember is, it's not a set it and forget it. I don't organize once and then I'm done for the rest of my life. Your stuff and your home is a reflection of you. And because you are never static, you are always changing. Your stuff needs to be evolving alongside you. And so you want to just take time to focus that, because the truth is, I don't have to organize, but I will be better and more effective if I do. If I take just an hour a week to say, what are things that I can improve? And this is a very simple question. Instead of feeling like we have to rip everything out and declutter and, that just feels unnecessary, just asking yourself, if I was going to add value to my experience, my home and my stuff, what does that look like? Do I need a system? Do I need to purge things? Do I want to buy something? Like, what would really benefit me to function better in my life?
So, do you think there's a connection between physical clutter and mental clutter?
1,000%.
And how does organizing one affect the other?
So I love organizing as a practice. I think of it as a self-care practice more than a task to complete. What I think is beautiful about the process of organizing is it lets us externalize and internalize process. So if we look at right now with the way the world is, the way our country is post-election and all of that, it's a lot of stress for people right now. And there's a feeling that we are out of control and we don't have an impact. We're not making an impact. And it's really easy to feel despair and hopeless and kind of give up. But if you turn to your sock drawer and you say, I'm going to organize my socks, and you spend that time, you are experiencing a sense of control in an out of control environment. You are getting that dopamine hit from completing something. And it seems so little. It's like, how am I helping the world by organizing my sock drawer? And it's you getting yourself out of a state of despair and actually seeing that you can affect change. If you ever watch a kid, like a kid will throw a rock at a body of water and they want to see the impact that they have. Like, they're so little and they're not used to mattering. And we all feel little and like we don't matter right now. And so my suggestion to people is when you feel out of control and stressed out, what can you do in your home to make you feel like you are impactful? Because then you can take that energy out into the world and into your work and into your family and be more effective because you're not trying to source from an empty cup. And it seems little, but it really does make a difference in our mindset and the way that we perceive ourselves in the world.
Okay, so what role do you feel mindfulness plays in the process of decluttering and staying organized?
When we are going slow enough in our lives and we are really listening to ourselves and we are hearing what we need and then we are meeting those needs, right? Many of us weren't parented that way growing up. We didn't have our needs met growing up in that way. And as adults, we get the opportunity to give ourselves what we didn't get maybe in other chapters of our lives. And when we do that, when we have that living with mindfulness present in our lives, we need clutter a lot less to speak up for us. When we are like, if I'm hungry and I eat a proper lunch, I'm probably going to not snack in the afternoon because I listened to my body when she was hungry and I gave her what she wanted. If I drank water when I was thirsty, maybe even before I was thirsty, I might not have soda later because I'm not like hitting this critical mass where my blood sugar and my body is like, please help me. It's like, so what we want to do is meet our needs as we have them come up. And that mindfulness of being present with ourselves allows us to not then need the clutter to act for us. This is I'm describing a very simplistic thing right now, right? Like this is like best case scenario. There's going to be times where we can't do that. But I do just want to offer that when we are able to listen to ourselves, even if it's imperfectly, and take the time to just really meet our need, whatever that is, it will greatly reduce clutter and it will greatly reduce the emotional electricity we have around clutter. Because when we have a need that's not being met and clutter represents that need and we're avoiding that, clutter feels painful and hot and terrifying. And so we really want to be able to know that if you are having a problem with your clutter, I'd rather have you reflect inside and see where is the love that's needed inside of you, because external clutter is just showing you that there's an internal moment that needs a little bit of TLC.
Okay, so many people struggle with perfectionism when it comes to organizing. What would you say to someone who is stuck in the mindset that everything needs to be perfect?
Trauma response. It's such a trauma response to feel like we have to be perfect, right? Like I'll be loved when the simple thing that if you could post this everywhere, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect, because we spend so much time obsessing about something that may not actually be that important or that interesting or that exciting or even that valid. It's so knowing that, like, what if we just get a first draft? Like in writing, there's a term called and I won't cuss on your show, but we'll just say like a poopy first draft, right? We're just going to say a poopy first draft. Just get something out, like do the first draft of something, like, because it really is that you will have the elements of the final system built in. And so what I say to people is, can you set a timer and say, what is the best version I can do in 10 minutes or 20 minutes? Because so back in the day before I started organizing, I was an actress. And when you are creating another human to play on, a movie or stage, you're never done, because a human is never done. We're always evolving. So it's just, I remember feeling like that process was so heavy for me, because I was like, well, how can I ever have enough time to create a believable human for this movie or whatever? And it's the same thing with our physical stuff. And so we want to stop asking, how long is this going to take? And instead start to ask ourselves, how long am I willing to give this to complete it? Because you could spend 15 weeks organizing your kitchen, or you could spend 4 hours, and the choice is yours. So what's the best version based on your life right now that you can offer that? And again, it's not how long will this take? How long am I willing to give this? Alex, I'm so sorry. I can't hear you at all.
Sorry, I forgot I had put it on
Oh, totally.
silent. I didn't
I
know
was
if you
like,
could
I
hear the
want to
noise.
hear. Totally.
You heard the noise in the background, so I was like, let me put it on. Let me
Totally.
unmute it. But anyway, yeah. So the way you broke it down is differently than most people think. So that's I like that way that you described it.
Thank you.
Um, So I only got one or two more questions, and then we'll dive into the prize that you got for the listeners. So let's go with this. So what do you think the link is between organization and productivity, especially for people who work from home?
I feel like productivity and organization are in some ways kind of the same thing. It's like, so I think most people think of organization as decluttering, right? There's this idea of like, get rid of it. I'm going to purge it, get rid of it. But organization is really about having things teed up and ready for you when you need them. Like I will always say to you when we're creating systems, where would you look for this? What would you call this? Like, where do you need this to be so that when you are ready for it, it's available to you? And then the second part is, what's the easiest way to put this away without having an extra like load of work for you? So it's always about how do you find it to use it, and then how do you seamlessly put it away? Productivity is really about how do you make sure you're doing the most important things for you, like according to what you need to do. How are you being your most effective self? And organization is the exact same thing, right? It's like like how do I get you to be your most effective self? And oftentimes we have this perception that someone else's system knows best, and we should be running around and, oh, people always put their office in the guest bedroom, or they always have their bills in the office. And I think that's not true. I always want you to look at what's effective for you. If you always pay bills on the dining room table, that is your office. That's okay. If we create a little satellite office in your kitchen, that's okay. Does that stop you from feeling like a failure and dragging things to the back or never paying your bills because they aren't where you think they should be? What if we create a really great bill pay system in your kitchen and then you never have to think about it again? And maybe that works for you. It's really about how do we build systems around your brain, your needs, your preferences, your lifestyle, the time you have available. It's really, again, it's where do you need this in order to function the best? What do you need to do that serves your goals and your vision and your values in life? That's really all I'm looking at centering you. We normally center people outside of ourselves and say, here's what I should be doing, quote unquote. And God forbid you have ADHD versus someone who's neurotypical. And then my wonderful clients and friends with ADHD run around feeling like they failed their whole lives because they're not, quote unquote, keeping up with the rest of the world. Well, your brain is a superpower. I don't need you to act like a neurotypical person. I need you to create systems around what works for you, because if I have you trying to be neurotypical, you will feel like you're failing. And what I see you're doing is like avoiding your genius. And I want you in the genius zone. Like, let the neurotypical person handle the other tasks, or let's outsource those things that are not top of mind for you. And so I really want to build systems around your brain, your genius, your abilities versus what the rest of the world is doing. The rest of the world can do what they need to do. I want to know what your brain needs.
So, last question. What would be your top tip for creating sustainable, lasting change when it comes to organizing habits?
Trust that you know. Trust that you know best. Trust that there is always a system and solution for you, and you need to look in more than you need to look out.
Okay. So let's dive into the surprise that you have for the listeners today.
Yes, I have a gift for your listeners today. If your listeners are interested, they want to know more, I wrote a book called Why the F Am I Still Not Organized? And I would love to give you all a free copy of that. If you go to starhansen.com, starhansen.com/podcast, you'll get a free download for the book. You can also take my Listen to the Monster in Your Closet Clutter Clearing Quiz to find out what monster is hiding in your closet, keeping you disorganized. So they'll get a few different freebies on there that will help them move forward in their organizational journey.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So I'd like to take this time to tell you, Miss Star, that I appreciate you coming on the show today, and having a conversation with me, letting my audience know certain tips and tricks that they can do to help declutter their life, and I really appreciate it.
Alex, thank you so much. It's been a real joy to talk to you today. Thank you. And thank you to your listeners for listening. I appreciate it.
Oh, yes. So everybody that's listening and watching, you all go to the description or the show notes, and you'll see all of Star's information. You'll see the link to the to get the free copy of the book. You'll see, of course, our website, social media, all the above. So y'all go and y'all support her any way possible, because what she's doing is great work. And if you need her in your life, then hey, contact her. at least have a conversation with her. So, um, but yes, so you all, thank you for watching. You guys have just watched another episode of All in All with Alex, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.